making in-season improvements. How can we take the 2 or 3 months that we have in season, and how can we continue our improvement as we go, right? Most people never think of that. And I think, just think, let's just take you at 12 years old, right? Theoretical person at 12 years old. Doesn't make any improvements during the season, just maintains, and then he goes 13. Doesn't make any improvements during the season, makes it all in the off season. Then he goes to 14, 15, 16, 17. How many years in a row have we just lost we don't get that time back. That's gone. So even though our improvement probably is going to be smaller because we're playing games, we darn sure better be improving during the season, right? So what am I going to be talking about? So I'm going to give you some notes. Don't take the first note on the next slide. I don't need to take but from there on, I'm going to tell you when to do that. So this is a proverb, old German proverb, and for some of you young guys, this is like, I can't even imagine this, right? I mean, you have a horse and a horseshoe, and that like escapes you because you're in the new era. It was something about a Maserati, you probably get it, but this is a horse, right? So this is an old German proverb, and it said, for want of a nail. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. So in other words, they didn't have a nail to put in the horseshoe and secure it to the horse. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. So because they didn't have the horseshoe, they couldn't put the horse in, they couldn't use the horse. For want of a horse, a rider was lost. So that's one less rider that they could use. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. For the want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And so you could all trad it back, right on back to a single nail in a shoe. So in other words, what am I saying to you? Details matter. Pay attention. And that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some details that absolutely matter, that most importantly, you have control over. I'm not talking about the details you don't have control over, like the weather. That's a detail. You don't have control over that. Now you have control over how you prepare, how you adjust, but you don't have control of the weather, right? You don't have control of whether the shortstop picks up the ball and throws anybody out. You don't have control of that. If you don't know that, you will, right? You don't. You don't have control over a lot of things. You don't have control. A lot of you don't have control over when you're going to pitch. The coach says you're in. The coach says you're not pitching until Thursday. You don't have control over that. And so we get so caught up in all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that you never worry about stuff like that. Of course, we're human, but you need to focus on what you can control. So now, John Wooden, now many of you, the parents probably know who John Wooden is. A lot of you young guys don't know. You guys use the word GOAT all the time now, as in the greatest of all time. Well, John Wooden was the greatest of all time. He's the greatest basketball coach. His team won 8 consecutive NCAA titles. That's 8 in a row for you guys that don't know what consecutive is, right? That's 8 in a row. That means we have Kentucky, we have, who won it last year? Connecticut, right? No. Can you imagine? Connecticut wins it for the next 8 years. That's how good UCLA was. They had 2 years in which they were perfect. In other words, they never lost a game. And John Wooden started every freshman. The freshmen came in, he took them to the locker room, and he said, here is how you put on your socks. Bill Walton, Hall of Fame basketball player, said he was an All-American, he was a high school All-American. He goes in, John Wooden, calls the 6 guys together and says, meet me in the locker room, we're going to go over how to put on your socks. Oh, no, he just said, meet me in the locker room. So they go in there, and Bill Walton goes, man, we couldn't wait. Coach Wooden is going to lay some wisdom on us. This is going to be amazing. What's the secret? And he goes, all right, everybody take off your socks and your shoes. And they're like, what? He goes, this old man, he was probably 60 at the time, took off his socks, and he goes, he's got these gnarly toes and varicose veins, and he showed everybody how to put on their socks without having any creases and wear. Most of the time you get blisters from your feet, and then he showed them how to put on your shoes so your shoes don't move. Now, why did he do that? Here's Bill Walton, a Hall of Famer. Do you think John Wooden wanted him on the court? Yes. What happens if he gets the blister so bad that he can't play, which happened a lot back then? He didn't want that, so he started with the basics. So what I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to take you through not how to put on your socks and shoes, but something towards that end. What I'm trying to show with both of these are the important things. And I want you to write these down as we go. Now it's time to write.